everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and today we're talking all about how to deal with negative emotions, or I should specify how to manage these emotions in helpful and healthy ways. Because I think for so many of us, the trouble isn't just in experiencing these unpleasant emotions, but also in dealing with them in a way that causes more problems or in ways that certainly don't help to make us feel any better. And believe me, I know firsthand how much negative emotions really can affect our life and lead to issues such as rumination and sleep problems and relationship issues and stress and anxiety and sometimes just an overwhelming feeling that our life really isn't going well. And of course, it's human nature to want to avoid or ignore these feelings, but unfortunately, not only does this strategy not work, it also tends to make these feelings grow and resurface at the most inconvenient times. But why do we experience negative emotions so often? Well, if we look at emotions in general, which psychologists have traveled around the globe to study, it was found that there are 5 basic human emotions that every single individual will experience regardless of their race, class, culture, gender, or age. And those are anger, fear, sadness, disgust, and happiness. Now, if you look at that list, you will probably notice that 4 out of the 5 emotions are negative. So already we can see that there is some asymmetry in the emotions that we are even able to feel. And if you've ever seen the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out, which uses these emotions as characters, the character of Joy really stands out because she is the only one that is actually positive. By the way, I think they did a fantastic job with this movie, and if you have any interest in psychology, I definitely recommend it because they actually consulted leading psychologists when they were writing the script, and I think it offers a really great visual on the concept of emotions. But back to today's topic, not only is there this great imbalance of emotions that we can potentially experience, but also humans have what's called a negativity bias, meaning that with everything being equal, humans will naturally gravitate towards noticing the negative things and the negative emotions, and not just noticing them, but also dwelling on them and focusing on them. So let's say we write this fantastic essay that everyone is raving about, but we do get 1 or 2 negative comments. We are going to experience the sting of the criticism in a much more powerful way than we are the joy that we receive from any of the praise that we got. The same thing happens in our day-to-day life when we encounter someone that is rude, even though the whole rest of the day we were interacting with people who were kind and conscientious. All of our mental energy goes to that one person who was rude. And this is because of that negativity bias. But sometimes we experience negative emotions because life can be hard and we are put in situations that are less than ideal, and our response is to feel negatively. It is simply part of the human experience, and no emotion in and of itself is actually bad. But even though these negative emotions can be very valuable because they are messengers that are trying to deliver important information, or they are asking us to make essential changes in a lot of cases, there is no benefit that comes from drowning in these emotions once the lesson has been learned. At that point, we are just furthering our suffering. So yes, we should listen to our emotions. We shouldn't try to deny them or ignore them. But it's also important that we don't let them overrun us. So let's talk about some strategies that we can use to help us not only cope with these strong emotions, but to also eventually move past them. The very first thing we need to do is to pause. Now, if you're anything like me, the second you start feeling these negative emotions, you start to catastrophize any situation that is connected to that emotion, and you have this strong desire to take some kind of action so that this feeling can go away. And that can lead to a lot of regret because we are doing something without thinking it through, and that can really just add to our problems, whether that be responsibility responding with a coping strategy that is actually harmful to us, or doing something that is out of character, like writing an angry text or even quitting our job. We don't want to do something in the heat of the moment. We need to give ourselves time to calm down and to think rationally, so we can do something to help relax ourselves during this time. Maybe we can stop and count to 100, or do some deep breathing exercises, or try to say the alphabet backwards. But we do want to allow ourselves to pause, even if it's just for a minute or two. The second thing that we need to do is to acknowledge the emotion and also get to the root of its origin. So we have to figure out not only exactly what we are feeling, but why. Why are we experiencing this? What actually triggered this emotion? Something that I suggest as part of this process is something that I like to do, which is journaling. Sometimes this is called emotional disclosure. This writing really provides us with a safe space for us to be open and honest about our feelings without the fear of judgment. This can be a very important part of the process, because not only does it help to break this cycle of rumination, because we are expressing our emotions and we're really kind of purging them onto the page, but it can also help us gain understanding and insight about what we are feeling. And sometimes we can even be shocked about what turns up on the page, because they can be things that we haven't allowed ourselves to consciously acknowledge. The third thing that we can do is to brainstorm. So once we have figured out what we are feeling and why, we can begin to consider if there are actionable strategies that we can take to make ourselves feel better. Is there anything that we should or could be doing that would help our situation, or is it out of our hands? Basically, we're trying to figure out if this is something that is in or not in our control. But we also want to take time to think about even basic things that we could be doing to make ourselves feel better, even when it is a situation that is out of our control. Is there anything that we could do to boost our mood if we are ready to do so? But please know, if you're not ready to do so, that is also okay. Perhaps you just need a little more time to process the emotion, or you just need a little bit more time to pass in general. Sometimes time itself heals. So we don't want to rush ourselves, and we also don't want to try to force ourselves to act positively if we are not feeling that way. However, it's also important to remember that we don't want to be feeding the flames of the negative emotion. So we want to try to find a balance between accepting the emotion and finding healthy ways to address it. The fourth thing we need to do is to practice self-care. And I know this is something we hear over and over and over again, and we hear that because it is so essential, especially in any kind of healing. So what I like to do is to get outside. I like to be outdoors. I like to meditate. I like to practice yoga or create art, but you could also play with your pet, go somewhere fun, take a bubble bath. Whatever we decide to do, the important thing is that we are truly taking enough time for ourselves and genuinely being a good friend to ourselves, and that we are beginning to understand what our needs are by listening to ourselves. And another part of self-care can be acknowledging when we need further support, getting the cues that maybe we need to reach out for help and talk to a friend or a family member or a therapist. We have to remember that experiencing negative emotions can be incredibly stressful, and that is why self-care becomes so essential during this time. And number 5 might surprise you, but it is highly effective, and that is to do something that is completely incompatible with negative emotions. So for example, a random act of kindness, or volunteering somewhere, or helping out a neighbor, or even just calling up a grandparent that you haven't spoken with in a while. Doing something so clearly positive makes it very difficult for us to continue to dwell on these negative emotions. And sometimes it can just be a relief to think about someone else for a while, especially when we are so overwhelmed with all the negative things we feel that are happening in our own life. It helps us to feel like we are a force of good in this world. And another variation on this theme is to sit down and create a gratitude list, where we simply write out all the good things that are happening in our life right now. know, sometimes we really can't see them because we are so focused on this one situation or this one emotion that is really swallowing us. But when we remember that there are good things in the world and even in our own life, it can help us to feel a lot better. So there you have it, 5 strategies that can help you cope with your negative emotions and also to heal them and to finally move on. I would love to hear which of the strategies you think will be the most effective for you, and also what strategies you have found to be helpful when you've been experiencing negative emotions in the past. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I truly hope today's video was insightful and helpful to you. If it was, please like it, share it, and definitely become a subscriber if you aren't one already. I would absolutely love it if you stuck around. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I truly hope the rest of your day is extraordinary.